She wanted my life, so she tried to become me. Hi, my name is Emily, and this is the story of how my ex's new girlfriend turned into my stalker, created over 50 fake accounts pretending to be me, and nearly destroyed my life. It started with a DM. I had just gotten out of a toxic 2-year relationship with Jake. He wasn't abusive, just manipulative, in that soft, quiet way that makes you question yourself more than him. The kind of guy who could twist your words into knots and still make you feel like you were overreacting. After months of gaslighting, silent treatments, and late-night business meetings that didn't add up, I finally pulled the plug. It wasn't dramatic. I packed my things, left the key on the counter, and walked out of our shared apartment without looking back. I thought I was free. I thought I could finally move on. I was wrong. 2 months later, I got a message request on Instagram. The username was something generic, like at just a girly thing 99, and the message read, "You think you're better than me? You're not. He was never yours." At first I laughed. It was so random. I thought it was a spam bot or maybe some troll with too much time. But then I got another message from a different account, and another, and another. Each one was more specific, more invasive. He said you never satisfied him. You're just a placeholder. He's happy now. I've seen your little diary, cute thoughts, shame no one cares. That last one made my blood run cold. Because I did have a private online journal, password protected, shared with no one, not even my closest friends. I had created it during a dark spell last winter when I couldn't sleep and my anxiety was eating me alive. It was the only place I could be brutally honest about my thoughts. I felt sick. Someone was watching me. I started doing digital hygiene, changed all my passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, locked down everything. But it didn't stop. The messages kept coming from different usernames, different platforms at all hours of the day. Some were threatening, others were almost affectionate. Like this one. "Your hair looks better straight. He always said curls made you look desperate." Who the hell was this? It wasn't long before I found out. Jake had moved on. Fast. Just 3 weeks after our breakup, he posted a story with a new girl, Amelia. She looked like a watered-down version of me. Same hair color, similar style, even wore the same lipstick shade I used to use. I remember squinting at the photo, not out of jealousy, but out of confusion. Because I swear, she was wearing my sweater. I'm not kidding. It was a vintage navy cable knit I'd thrifted years ago. It had a small tear under the left sleeve. And in the photo, Amelia's arm was positioned awkwardly, like she was hiding it. I showed it to my best friend Natalie. She froze. "Emily, that's your sweater. That's literally your sweater." I felt cold, not scared, not angry, just cold, like something was seriously wrong. And it was only the beginning. I tried to dismiss the sweater. Maybe I left it at Jake's by accident. Maybe he gave it away, and she just happened to wear it. That's what I told myself, anyway. But the more I looked, the more I noticed the similarities. She didn't just look like me. She was trying to be me. Her Instagram had only existed for a month, yet it already featured a Throwback Thursday photo from a hiking trail I had visited the previous year with Jake. Same background, same season, same pose. Only now, it was Amelia in the picture, wearing similar boots, caption, "Favorite place, favorite man." I felt like I was losing my mind. I started cataloging everything: screenshots, timelines, password change logs, DM timestamps. I even created a private folder labeled Replica, just to track how deep this went. Amelia followed my coworkers, my sister, even the dog groomer I used once for my golden retriever. She liked old pictures of mine from years ago. She posted the same smoothie recipe I shared in a story 2 weeks prior. She wore the same perfume I had tagged once in a skincare Q&A. It wasn't inspiration. It was obsession. I confronted Jake. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay free of the mess. But I needed answers. He denied everything. Said she barely used social media, that it was just a coincidence. When I pressed, his tone changed. "You're being paranoid, Em. You always were." Gaslighting. Again. Classic Jake. I blocked them both. Everywhere. Thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The messages turned darker. You thought blocking me would stop this? Blocking doesn't make you invisible. I see you. Pretty red top today. I had worn red to work that day. I started walking different routes home, changed grocery stores, avoided posting anything that could give away my location. But she always found a way, like a shadow that refused to detach. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I got a notification from my building security app. Motion detected outside the front entrance. I opened the feed. A woman, hoodie, standing completely still, looking directly at the camera. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I could feel it like she was smiling underneath. I called the police. By the time they arrived, she was gone. No sign of a break-in, no footprints, just a lingering dread I couldn't shake. The officer was kind but blunt. Do you have any reason to believe someone might be targeting you? I hesitated, then showed him the messages, the photos, the thread of fake accounts. He scrolled for a full minute before saying, "This isn't trolling, this is targeted harassment." They filed a report. Suggested I stay with someone for a few days. So I packed a bag and stayed at Natalie's. That night, I dreamt I was looking in the mirror. But the reflection wasn't me. It was her, wearing my clothes, my makeup, my scars, and she was smiling. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in bed, replaying everything in my mind. The sweater, the messages, the timing. It all fit, but I still didn't want to believe it. I told myself there had to be an explanation, that maybe Jake had given away some of my clothes by accident, or Amelia had bought the same lipstick by coincidence, but my gut said otherwise. So, I started digging. I looked up Amelia's public profiles. They were curated, almost too perfect. Each photo had a heavy filter, each caption dripping in vague quotes about rebirth and claiming what's mine. But what caught my attention was her follower list. There were dozens of fake-looking accounts with usernames like @Emily, Truth101, @RealEmilyStory, and @Official M Recovery. Most had 0 followers. Some had the same profile pictures of me. My actual photos. Screenshotted from years ago. Old Facebook albums I thought were private. An old Tumblr selfie. Even a blurred image of me crying on a train photo I'd sent once to Natalie during a breakdown. She wasn't just copying me. She was archiving me. At that point, I felt panic rise in my throat. This wasn't just a girl being weird. This was someone obsessed, dangerous, someone who wanted to replace me. I called Natalie, voice shaking. She came over within 30 minutes, no questions asked. We sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by screenshots, digging through account after account. Some of the bios read like declarations of war. I'm the real Emily. Don't believe her lies. He always loved me more. It was like watching someone slowly erase my identity and wear it like a second skin. That's when Natalie said it. You need to go to the police. I hesitated. I didn't have concrete proof Amelia was behind all this. She hadn't signed her name. She hadn't threatened my life. And cyberstalking laws are a nightmare, especially when the stalker knows how to cover her tracks. But Natalie was right. If I waited too long, things could get worse. So I filed a report. Gave them everything: screenshots, usernames, timestamps, context. The officer at the desk nodded sympathetically but warned me. Without direct evidence linking her to the messages, our hands are kind of tied. Classic. I left the station feeling defeated. But something inside me was still burning. I wasn't going to let this girl rewrite my story. So I set a trap. I created a fake account. One that looked just like one of the anonymous ones she'd used. Same filter style, similar username, same language pattern. I posted vague captions, borrowed quotes from her page. Within 48 hours, the account had a new follower. @Amelia lives. Bingo. She followed my decoy account thinking it was one of her own. And then she messaged it. Let's coordinate. Emily's losing it. We can break her. My stomach turned. But I had what I needed. I screenshotted everything, took it back to the police. This time, their tone changed. The officer asked me to come back the next day to speak with a detective. I did. The detective took one look at the messages and said, "This qualifies as harassment and identity fraud. We'll open a case." But Amelia wasn't done. That night, I came home to find a letter taped to my front door. No stamp, no envelope, just a note scribbled in shaky handwriting. "You're not safe. He always said you were weak." I froze. She knew where I lived. This wasn't just online anymore. She was watching me, following me, maybe even inside my building. I called Natalie again. She came over and helped me install security cameras. We changed my locks. I bought pepper spray. I slept with a light on. But nothing could stop the feeling that my identity was slipping away, piece by piece, into the hands of someone who wanted to become me. It started getting darker. Amelia, whoever she truly was, didn't just want to hurt me. She wanted to erase me and replace me. By the time fall came around, I'd received over 300 messages across platforms, all anonymous, all unmistakably her. I began keeping a log, times, screenshots, usernames, notes about tone and content. My therapist called it surveillance for sanity. I called it my survival file. But it wasn't enough to stop her. One evening in mid-October, I came home to find my mailbox stuffed full of magazines I never subscribed to. Cosmo, Psychology Today, even a few bridal catalogs, all addressed to me. All recently activated. I spent 2 hours canceling them. Then came the pizza. 4 separate deliveries in one night. Different places, different names, all unpaid. When I opened the door for the last one, the driver said, "This one's from Jake." That night, I barely slept. My phone lit up at 3:14 a.m., a new Instagram account. No posts, no followers, just one message. "You can't block what you can't see." I threw up, literally. That was when I started calling her the ghost, because that's what she felt like. An invisible force slipping through my life, leaving fingerprints I couldn't trace. I went to the police, again. This time with printed records, timestamps, threats, even a photo I took of a girl I was certain was Amelia, sitting in a car outside my apartment at 11 p.m. The officer took one look and sighed. "Have they made direct threats to your safety?" "Not yet," I said, hands shaking. "But it's escalating." He nodded slowly. "Until she crosses that line, our hands are tied." So I did the only thing I could think of. I crossed it for her. I posted a thread on Reddit. Title: "My ex's new girlfriend is stalking me with 50+ fake accounts." I outlined everything, not doxing her, but being brutally honest. I even included a few screenshots with usernames blurred. People responded instantly, some with sympathy, some with skepticism. But one user, a tech forensics guy, DM'd me and offered to help. He walked me through metadata tracing, how to analyze EXIF data, how to request logs from apps. We spent 2 weeks building a profile. Every email, every fake name, every VPN hop she took. We found patterns. She reused phrases, recycled profile pictures. And then we found the key. One of her burner accounts had been linked to an Amazon wish list. Public. And on that wish list, a journal. The same exact brand and cover as mine. I clicked on the profile name. It was Amelia's full name. I had her. I took everything to the police again. This time, I brought a lawyer friend. We laid it out clearly. They opened an investigation. Days later, I got a call from the detective. "You might want to come in." They showed me footage of Amelia walking into a print shop and asking to make flyers. Dozens of them. Each one with my face on it, edited to look grotesque. Underneath, Lear, Thief, Homewrecker. She posted them all over my neighborhood. I broke down. But not because of the flyers. Because I finally felt seen. It was enough for a restraining order. And when they served her, she screamed at the officer, called me a parasite, said I had stolen her life. She didn't even realize how right she was, just not in the way she thought. Amelia was charged with harassment, stalking, and identity theft. She pled not guilty. But I didn't care about the verdict. I just wanted my face back. It wasn't just the sweater. Once I started looking, I saw more. In one post, Amelia wore a delicate silver ring with a moonstone the exact same one I had lost months before while moving out of the apartment with Jake. I had assumed it slipped down a drain or got caught in a blanket and tossed. But there it was, on her hand, catching the light in a selfie captioned, "He makes me feel whole." Another story showed her with a dog. Not just any dog. Jake and I had fostered a senior beagle together named Oscar for a few months, and when we broke up, he went back to the shelter. Or so Jake claimed. But there was Amelia, cuddling Oscar on the couch I had helped pick out at IKEA. It was like she was slowly stitching together a life made from the scraps of mine. But what rattled me most wasn't what I saw online. It was what I felt offline. I started noticing a car parked outside my building more often than seemed normal. An older blue sedan. Sometimes it was there at midnight, sometimes early morning. Once, I walked out to grab a coffee, and it drove away the second I stepped outside. I couldn't see the driver. My neighbors mentioned someone had been buzzing different apartments, asking for me. One said the woman claimed to be my sister. I don't have a sister. I called Jake. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe some sort of explanation, maybe even an apology. He answered, surprised. "Emily, is everything okay?" "I need to talk to you about Amelia." Long pause, then. "What about her?" "I think she's been following me, messaging me from fake accounts. I have proof." Jake laughed. Actually laughed. "You think Amelia has time for that kind of high school drama?" "She's not obsessed with you, Emily. Maybe you should talk to someone. Professionally." I hung up. And that's when the doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole. No one. But on the welcome mat was a single envelope. No name, no return address. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were a dozen printed photos. All of me. Walking to work, sitting on my porch with a book, leaving the grocery store, all taken from a distance. The last one was the worst. It was me, asleep in my bed. I couldn't breathe. That night, I slept in my closet with a pair of scissors in hand and my phone clutched to my chest. Every noise felt amplified. Every creak in the floorboards was her. I knew it was her. No one else would do this. No one else would go this far. The next morning, I went to the police. They were sympathetic, but not helpful. Because she hadn't technically threatened me, there wasn't much they could do. They took copies of the photos, told me to keep a log, suggested I get a security camera. So I did. I installed a ring cam at my front door and motion sensors in my apartment. I changed my routines, took new routes to work, started carrying pepper spray. But the feeling never left me like I was being watched. Because I was. And she wasn't stopping. I didn't hear from Amelia for a few days after the police visit. No new messages, no sightings, nothing. Part of me hoped it meant she'd backed off, finally realized how far she'd gone. But hope was a luxury I no longer allowed myself. 3 days later, I was coming back from a late-night shift. I work in publishing, and sometimes we're stuck reviewing layouts into the evening. It was nearly midnight, and I was exhausted. As I got to my door, I felt that gut-deep instinct again. That someone had been there. There was a folded piece of paper wedged between the screen and the wood. No envelope. Just handwriting. "You didn't say goodbye." My skin prickled. I scanned the hallway empty. The surveillance camera I'd installed? Dead. The wires were cut. Literally snipped. I had chills all over. I opened the paper again. This time, I noticed something faint on the back. A lipstick kiss. Same color I used to wear. The shade I'd stopped using when I realized Amelia had started copying even that. I locked myself in, double-checked the windows, sat on the couch, and just stared. I was trapped in my own home, terrified of a woman I'd barely spoken to. The next morning, I called the detective. She came over in person, looked at the camera, the paper, took samples, fingerprints, but I could see it in her eyes' frustration. They had no solid proof of a crime. Obsession isn't illegal unless it crosses certain lines. And Amelia was too smart to cross them blatantly. She lived in the gray zone. I'm doing everything I can, the detective said. But Emily, you might want to consider something stronger. A protection order, even if it's temporary. I nodded. Do I need to see her again for that? She hesitated. Honestly, it would help. I hated how helpless that made me feel, like I had to endure more just to prove I was in danger. But I agreed. I'd do whatever it took. And then something happened that changed everything. A friend of mine, Claire, called me in a panic. Emily, did you just comment on my post? No. Why? Someone using your name and photo just wrote something weird on my story about how I never supported Jake and always wanted him for myself. I froze. I asked for a screenshot. Sure enough, my name, my profile picture, but the account had 2 underscores and a period subtly added. It was me, but not me. And that was the trick. It always was. Amelia didn't want to just harass me. She wanted to be me. To mimic me so perfectly, people wouldn't know who to believe. And if she couldn't replace me in real life, she'd do it digitally. This wasn't just stalking. This was identity theft. It clicked. That's what I had to prove. I called the detective back, told her everything. She brought in a cybercrimes officer, and together they started documenting every impersonation attempt, every fake account, every copied photo, even old tweets from years ago that had somehow been reposted under those burner profiles. We built a timeline. Amelia's obsession was traceable, measurable, and finally, chargeable. I filed the official report. And then, I waited. Another 3 weeks passed before I got the call. They'd arrested her. She'd shown up at my old apartment complex, trying to get the front desk to give her access to her place. Claimed she lost her keys, used my name. The concierge recognized my photo from one of the building-wide alerts we'd sent weeks ago and called the police. When they searched her, she had multiple phones, a notebook full of usernames and passwords, and a USB drive. That drive, it held copies of my journals, photos of my family, even voicemails I thought were long deleted. She'd hacked everything. Seeing her face in the mugshot was surreal. She looked calm, beautiful even, like someone posing for a casting call, not someone caught trying to become another human being. And yet, despite everything, there was a flicker of pity in me. Because to go that far, something inside her had to be broken. But that didn't mean I forgave her. That didn't mean I'd ever feel safe again. Because here's the truth. No one tells you. When someone tries to become you, piece by piece, they don't just steal your identity. They fracture your reality. They take your voice, your past, your very sense of self, and leave you questioning whether you'll ever feel whole again. But I was determined. Determined to reclaim every piece. The arrest gave me a breath. Not a full breath, but just enough to sleep without checking every lock 3 times. Enough to close my eyes without seeing her face superimposed on mine. Amelia was being held while the investigation continued. Cybercrime charges, stalking, digital impersonation, multiple counts. Her lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity. Some nonsense about emotional trauma and mental fragility. But the evidence spoke louder. Unfortunately, justice doesn't move quickly. While the courts sorted through legal motions and endless delays, I was left with the wreckage. I couldn't go back to my old apartment, not after she'd tried to enter as me. So, I moved again. Second time, in less than a year. Different neighborhood, new landlord, new locks, new cameras. I even changed the way I dressed in publicless color. More layers. Anything to feel invisible. The therapist I'd been seeing suggested writing about the experience, reclaiming the narrative. So I started journaling again, but this time offline. Pen to paper. Hidden in a drawer, like a relic from another time. But Amelia had done more than just invade my digital life. She'd infected my relationships. People weren't sure how to talk to me anymore. Friends tiptoed around the subject. My coworkers kept their distance, as if my trauma might be contagious. My parents called daily, but our conversations had become sterile just status updates disguised as concern. Even Natalie, my closest friend, had changed. She tried to be there. She brought over wine and takeout. She asked if I needed company. But she also kept checking her phone, kept glancing at the door. And I could feel it. She was afraid. Not of Amelia, of me. One night, I broke down. "Am I hard to be around?" I asked her, voice trembling. "Be honest." Natalie hesitated, then finally, "You're different now. You don't laugh the same. You're always watching, always waiting." "Because I have to," I said. "I know," she whispered. "But it's like she took parts of you that haven't come back yet." I cried for an hour. She stayed, holding my hand. And, for the first time, I realized something terrifying. Amelia didn't just want to replace me. She succeeded. Not permanently, not physically, but emotionally. She had carved so deeply into my identity that even I didn't recognize myself. And the worst part? That was her goal. To become me by breaking me. To hollow me out so she could step into the shell. But I wasn't going to let her win. Not completely. So I started building my life again, one choice at a time. I dyed my hair a new color. Burned the lipstick shade she copied. Bought clothes that didn't remind me of anything. I deleted every app she'd ever used to reach me. I even changed my name on social media, not drastically, just enough that someone searching wouldn't find me right away. And then, one day, I decided to speak. Not anonymously, not through locked journals or encrypted emails. I recorded a video. No makeup, no script, just me, sitting in front of my laptop telling the truth. About Amelia. About Jake. About what it feels like to be hunted by someone who wants your skin like a costume. I uploaded it to a private link and sent it only to people I trusted. Natalie, my parents, a few old friends. And something strange happened. They responded. Not with pity. With solidarity. Turns out I wasn't the only one. A former coworker messaged me. My ex's new girl showed up to my gym in my exact outfit. Pretended not to recognize me. A distant cousin shared. My roommate used to log into my accounts and pretend to be me online. I never told anyone. Even my therapist said, "It's more common than people think, but rare for it to get this far." So I kept talking. Quietly, carefully, but steadily. And every word I spoke was like reclaiming a tile of the mosaic that had been shattered. I wasn't trying to expose Amelia. The law was already doing that. I was trying to find myself beneath the rubble she left behind. The court date arrived 6 months later. I sat in the third row, just behind the prosecution, my palms sweating despite the icy air conditioning. Amelia entered through the side door in handcuffs. Orange jumpsuit. Hair pulled back. No makeup. No smirk. Just a blank stare that didn't even search for me in the room. But I saw her. The girl who once wore my clothes, used my words, posted photos with my name, now reduced to a number on a docket sheet. The prosecutor leaned over. "She's going to plead." I blinked. "What?" "Guilty. No trial." I felt everything inside me tighten and release all at once. No testimony, no cross-examination. No having to relive every twisted message, every fake account, every violation in a room full of strangers. It was a gift. One I didn't expect. Amelia stood, said nothing, nodded once when the judge asked if she understood the charges. Then it was over. Well, legally, it was. Emotionally, the damage lingered. The judge issued a no-contact order for 5 years. Amelia was sentenced to 18 months, with 6 months credit for time served. The rest under house arrest and psychiatric supervision. Some called it lenient. Others said it was justice. I didn't care. All I wanted was to never see her again. But healing doesn't come on a schedule. Trauma doesn't respect calendars. The day after sentencing, I opened my laptop to a blank page. I wrote, "My name is Emily. I survived being impersonated by someone who wanted to erase me, and I'm still here." That became the first line of a piece I submitted anonymously to a trauma survivors forum. Then, a podcast picked it up. Then, a magazine. Suddenly, my story was being told not as a tabloid headline, not as a cautionary tale, but as a truth that resonated with others. I was invited to speak on panels, asked to consult on documentaries. I said yes, not because I wanted attention, but because I wanted the silence to end. For too long, I felt like I didn't exist, that Amelia had taken something intangible but vital. Now, with every word I spoke publicly, I reclaimed it. One day, while out shopping for groceries, a woman approached me, mid-30s, soft voice, nervous. "Are you Emily?" I hesitated. "Yes." Her eyes welled. "I read your article. My sister went through something similar. I just wanted to say, thank you. You made her feel less crazy." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel exposed. I felt and useful. But life doesn't wrap itself in neat little bows. A few months later, I got a message request on a new app I'd started using, Be Real. The username was nonsense. But the profile picture? It was me. An old photo. From a concert I'd gone to years ago. One I'd deleted off social media long ago. But there it was. The caption under the request? "We're not finished." My heart dropped. I froze. My hands trembled. For a full minute, I didn't move. And then, I did something I hadn't done before. I didn't block. I didn't report. I called the cybercrimes officer I had worked with before. Gave them the handle, the timestamp, a screenshot. They traced the account. It wasn't Amelia. It was someone else. A man, a stranger, possibly inspired by the case, or by the attention it received. That's when it hit me. Amelia had opened a door, one that let others through. The trauma didn't stop with her, but neither did my strength. I tightened my digital defenses, took another break from platforms, told my story again, but now with a chapter about how danger evolves, and how boundaries aren't about walls. They're about knowing your worth. I don't live in fear anymore, but I do live with awareness. Every time I post, every time I share, I ask myself, is this me reclaiming my lifer, offering another piece to someone watching? The line is fine, but I walk it, eyes open. And if you're listening to this story now, if you've ever felt watched, copied, violated, know this. You are not crazy. You are not alone. And you are not what they tried to make you. You're what you choose to rebuild. Because survival isn't passive. It's active. And I survived. Not just the stalking. Not just the digital theft. But the erasure. And now, I exist louder than ever.